quick note before we get into my review for The Little Mermaid 2023. I did want to apologize for the bad editing in here. I normally do these unedited. I mean, that's why it's called unedited reviews. But sometimes some things happen and you got to make an edit here or there. And I admit the one here is not a good one. So I do apologize for that. But regardless, I hope you enjoy my unedited review-ish for The Little Mermaid 2023. The Disney live-action remakes, or in Lion King's case, made to look realistic, they're movies that tend to divide the audience, divide the critics, divide the fans. Everybody's like, the original is better, or most people are. And I'll admit, yeah, 9 times out of 10, the original is better, unless this is a different take on it, like you have with Cruella, Maleficent, even Christopher Robin. You know, those, let's just call them different. They're just different takes, not exactly remakes. They're movies that, you know, people are like, the original is always better. Always better. They shouldn't even make them. To that I say, well, if they shouldn't make them, then don't go see them. But I, for one, overall, I enjoy them. Now, admittedly, the first time I go in, I probably judge them more. I do look at what they changed, what they kept the same. I do think about that a lot. But I usually see them again at some point, or after I've had time to put that out of my system, I start to think about them as their own movies, which is what you have to do with these. And when you do that, generally they're not bad movies. For me, the biggest example of this definitely is Aladdin, because as I've shown on my channel many times, I love Aladdin. It's my favorite movie, period. And that remake, going into it, I'm like, okay, what are they going to do? I'm going to be very judgmental. And there were definitely some things I'm like, I don't like that. I don't like that they changed this around. But even I had to admit, I'm like, this is actually pretty good. This is still Aladdin. I like what they did. And then on the second viewing, I'm like, oh yeah, this is better than I thought it was. All that to say, I like The Little Mermaid. I think it's a very well done, well executed live action remake of that original Little Mermaid movie. Now, we do have to remember, because I feel like there are a lot of people that just, they associate Little Mermaid with Disney and that's it. We do have to remember that technically Disney's was a retelling of the Hans Christian Andersen story. Just throwing that out there. But for me, I thought they did a real good job with this. They kept the basic story. They kept a good bit of it. Some of them were shots for shots, which I appreciate they did, because there are some scenes in The Little Mermaid that I have to admit are very well known, very well beloved. You know, whether that's her singing on the rocks or popping up in the hair brushing back as she's breaking the surface for the first time as a human. They kept all those things. And that's good. You know, it's nice to see that they maintained things from the original that people loved. Now, some folks will say they kept too much, but I think they kept enough and they changed enough things. I will say the biggest thing for me that helped, the one good thing that I did, was I haven't watched Little Mermaid in years. It's not an animated movie I love. I am definitely, again, I'm much more Aladdin or Lion King. You know, those are the movies I like. Even Hercules and some of the older ones that came before Little Mermaid. But I hadn't watched Little Mermaid in years. So going into it, I didn't even watch the original before seeing this one. And I feel like that actually helped because I had forgotten certain moments in the movie. Now, I did also watch a review of the original before going in, so I had just seen some of that stuff. But basically, as I'm babbling, I didn't watch the original again before watching this new version. And I'm glad I did, because I feel like if I had just watched the animated, I would have been too judgmental. I might have thought more about what all was the same, what all was shot for shots, what I wish they had done, you know, all those things. But by doing what they did and by doing what I did, I could watch this movie on its own, appreciate it, and then when certain moments would come up or certain scenes would happen, I'd be like, oh yeah, that was in the original. Or, oh yeah, that was part of the original story. And, like, I mean, the whole beginning of the movie, I believe they altered it a little bit. I know they moved some stuff around. But, like, I totally forgot stuff that happened at the beginning with Ariel and things. And I liked that. I liked not really remembering stuff and then being, I'll say, reintroduced to certain aspects. Now, the songs, I know the songs. I mean, if you're a Disney fan, or if you're not, you know a lot of the songs, especially like Kiss the Girl or Under the Sea. I think they're in our zeitgeist. They're in the pop culture zeitgeist now. And yeah, so with the story, it's still the same. It's the same story, you know. So there's no major no spoilers really as far as the story goes. There are a few, and I won't reveal them here. But all that to say, I did mention this in my quick review, the changes they did make for the most part, I really liked. I like how they alter things. It makes sense. It makes you think, well, why wasn't it that way in the animated? It's like, this makes sense. You know, we get to experience more of Ariel's world in a sense. So I think the animated did that better. But we get a much bigger look at Eric's kingdom. We learn more about him. Some things that I don't think they were in the original. I don't think they were part of that story or that lore. We get introduced to a parent. We get introduced to Eric's mother, which we didn't have any parents in that original version. We get to actually see that he is, quote unquote, a prince, and we get to see the kingdom he's around. Personally, I don't think he's a prince. I think he's, I mean, yes, fine, he's a prince, but I feel like maybe a duke, maybe a lord. I just, that's more along the lines of the type of royalty I think he is. But so they added on to that. They added on to the build between Ariel and Eric. You see how they're kindred spirits. You see why she falls for him. You see why he falls for her. It just works. They relate to each other, whether it's parent issues, whether it's, as people have said, being hoarders, which they're not hoarders, they're collectors. Because, yeah, collectors sounds a lot better than hoarders. But anyway, the look of Sebastian and Flounder and Scuttle, it took a little getting used to, but it overall didn't bother me. Because that wasn't something that I was focused on. The songs, as far as the songs go, they're all there. They're all good. The performances are really great. I mean, so much has been said about Halle Bailey that I can't really add anything to it. She's amazing. She's fantastic. She's perfect in this role. Her voice, her singing is just incredible. I mean, you, like I said, I can't really add anything to anything anybody else has said. And I mean, you have to watch the movie to truly appreciate just how good she is. Jonah Hurricane, and I know I messed up that first part of his last name, and I apologize, plays Prince Eric in this version. And he definitely adds more depth and more character and more personality to Eric here than we got in that original film. Basically, what I can remember that we got in the original film was Eric he likes adventuring, he knows how to sail, and he's a prince. Though, like I think I mentioned, I'm not quite sure if he is a prince. He seems more like a lord to me. But they add on to his exploring things, like how he wants to be out. He doesn't want to be stuck behind walls and rule. And I think one of the reasons we get more of that is because we actually have a parent in this film where we don't in the animated one. Now, there was something that didn't click for me until now. But that original film, I feel like they only bring up Ariel's voice once or twice, maybe. And if it's supposed to have as big an impact on Eric as he claims, or why they end up together, then you'd think they would have brought it up more, or it would have been a bigger deal in the animated movie. No, here, that's one of the main driving forces behind his character. If not, well, yeah, it's like the second main driving force, because he just wants to get out and explore. And I like that they did that. It really shows, okay, now this is a guy who's obsessed with this girl's voice. And we understand one of the many reasons they end up falling for each other. And that leads also to his mother saying, you're crazy, you need to settle down, you need to stay put. Which is reflective later on in Triton, polar opposite to her. I mean, in the sense that he's in the sea, she's afraid of the sea, says it's bad things, and Triton is like, no, you can't go above, they're evil. But that does bring up Prince Eric's song. And it's a good song. But for me, I feel like the new songs are clearly new ones. If you had never seen the original, I feel like you would know something's different. And you would be able to tell which ones were from the original and which ones are from this one. Because they don't flow well together. They're good songs, but they don't mesh or meld well. The three new ones sound like Broadway musical numbers compared to the ones from the original movie. Now, the Broadway show did an excellent job of combining new songs with those originals. That's the kind of blending that they needed to do here, and they didn't do it well. It's not to say the songs are bad, because a great example of this is the Scuttlebutt song sung by Scuttle Aquafina, who I love as Scuttle. She's really brings out the humor in the character. It's a lot of fun to watch. And another with Sebastian, who, I'm sorry, I can't remember the guy's name, but I know he was in Hamilton, and he's great as Sebastian, which this is a song I really like. I know there's people that don't like it, but I found it to be really funny. I was laughing, I was smiling, I can't stop listening to it. And while we're on the songs, as far as the older ones, or the original ones, they do leave out one or two, which honestly is not that big of a deal when you really think about it. The changes they made to Kiss the Girl do kind of bug me. It's a nitpick, though, same way the changes they made to Prince Ali. But otherwise, I think they work well. I like how they're done. They are very well performed. And, I mean, that brings up Melissa McCarthy. I was in the group of people who's like, Melissa McCarthy? Really? She's going to be Ursula? What? Why? But she was brilliant. She was fantastic. I loved her laugh. I just loved the way she played the character. It was great. It was maniacal. And then her singing Poor Unfortunate Souls just worked. The changes they made to her character and the way she did things was definitely a lot darker than the... well, you could argue the way they did in the movie, the animated one, was darker. But it really worked. I think she was really good with this character. And I liked how her tentacles almost reminded me of Doc Ock's tentacles from Spider-Man 2. That's all I'm going to say about that. But she was great. I do think that the CG for her when she gets large at the end, and that's not a spoiler because that's in the original movie. Yeah, I could tell they were hiding bad CG. Um, that is one of the CG moments I'm like, it's dark because you're trying to hide that it's not great. But yeah, she was great, and she showed why they chose her. I mean, I've said it enough already, but she did a really good job. Real quickly, the other girls, they got to play her sisters, did well. I liked how they incorporated multiple I don't know what the right word, I guess multiple ethnicities into it, and then said about my daughters of the seven seas. I thought that I liked that idea, like, okay, maybe they rule different parts of the sea. They're not a huge part of the movie, but they are a good counter to Ariel's perspective at times. And then that brings up Triton, played by Javier Bardem. I think he did a really good job of adding more to the character. I mean, you can tell the pain. You can tell you can tell he's just trying to keep everybody safe. He's just so worried about Ariel, about his daughters, about that he's not thinking straight. And he really feels like a real parent. I think he's a little scarier here than in the animated movie, except for one part. But yeah, he's one of these, he ends up being one of these parents that you're like, just understand her. Like, why can't you understand her? But he plays it really well. Some of the speeches he makes are really good. And he does do a good job of bringing out why he doesn't want them to breach the surface and look at the surface world or even have anything to do with it, why he's scared of it. There is a little bit of a eco message in one or two specific parts, which I think about, I'm like, oh, that's kind of funny, but yeah, I guess it makes sense that of course you would do that. But yeah, overall, everyone did a really good job, really good performances. There's none that I'm like, that did not work for me. I do like the change they made to Grimsley, I think, the butler. Yeah, I think that's the name. I think I mentioned it, but a couple of story changes they made, I'm like, well, why didn't they do this in the original? Because it makes sense. But again, probably just because of the time that movie came out. But yeah, I think I've covered everything with this movie. Again, overall, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very well done. It might break my top 5 Disney live action remakes. Maybe not. It's definitely close. Like, it might just miss out to something else. But yeah, what ranking would I give this? I'm gonna say I'm gonna go superhero, because I think it's very well done. They did a good job of translating the original source material and keeping a lot of the stuff, but also adding new things. Like I said, I like the songs they added generally. I like the changes they made to characters, the additions to story, but there are some nitpicks that are just like, this could be better, or this could be better. But it is definitely one of those movies, the more I think about it, the more like, oh, huh, they did do that. Oh, that is interesting. Which is one of the things I do like about doing these reviews, is because I tend to think about things more as I'm recording them. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that before. But this video is getting quite long. So like I said, I give this movie a ranking of superhero. I do recommend going to check it out. Maybe wait another week. I'm not sure. how busy it's going to be. I mean, Spider-Verse is out, so who knows. But what did you think? Have you had a chance to see this film yet? If so, what did you think of it? Is it another terrible, terrible remake and they should just stop? Did you like it more than me? Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Have you not seen it yet because you're waiting, or does my review make you want to see it more? Whatever your thoughts, comment down below. Let me know. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Trying to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the year. If I do, I'm trying to think of something special to do. Not sure what. So, yep. And until our next review, remember, enjoy what you love, read what you love, and let's all work for a better fandom. I'll see you next time.